In a jaw-dropping twist that has shaken the foundations of hip-hop, Snoop Dogg finds himself facing sentencing for the murder of Tupac Shakur. What once seemed like a mere rumor has now become a shocking reality, exposing hidden secrets and dark alliances that have festered in the shadows for decades. As we unravel the tangled web of betrayal, loyalty, and power plays, we'll dive deep into the untold story behind this monumental case. This is not just a story. It's the unveiling of a haunting truth that will forever change the legacy of Snoop Dogg. The latest rumors linking Snoop Dogg to the tragic death of Tupac Shakur have reignited widespread intrigue and scrutiny, adding a new dimension of mystery to one of hip-hop's most legendary and somber chapters. During a recent appearance on the Collect Call podcast, Suge Knight, the founder of Death Row Records, brought these allegations back to the surface, raising new questions about Snoop's possible involvement on the tragic night when Tupac lost his life. Suge Knight, who was present in the vehicle when Tupac was fatally shot on September 7, 1996, voiced his skepticism about Snoop's role, stressing the importance of honesty from his former label mate. His statements hinted at a tangled network of relationships, loyalty, and potential betrayal that surrounded the rapper's final days. Knight stressed that an in-person confrontation with Snoop Dogg was essential to address these allegations directly. He asserted that Snoop owed the hip-hop community an explanation regarding his knowledge and actions around the time of Tupac's murder. Tupac, a major figure at Death Row, was not just a colleague, but a vocal supporter of Snoop. Tupac even featured Snoop in his acclaimed 1996 double album, All Eyes on Me, praising him both publicly and privately. The idea of betrayal hinted at by Knight would be monumental. Any truth behind these claims could shake the core legacy of Death Row Records and the tight-knit alliances forged within that circle. This backdrop of respect and artistic collaboration, as Knight suggested, would only amplify the impact of any perceived disloyalty. A particularly unsettling claim by Knight is that Snoop allegedly advised fellow Death Row affiliate Daz Dillinger to stay away from Las Vegas that night. Knight pointed to a warning Snoop purportedly gave Dillinger, which now strikes him as foreboding. According to Knight, Snoop supposedly said, "You can't go to the fight, can't go to the club, can't go to Vegas. It's going to be messed up because something's going to happen." This account implies that Snoop might have had advanced knowledge of what was set to occur. If true, it would mean Snoop was aware of a potential threat, casting suspicion on why he urged Dillinger to steer clear of that evening's events. Knight's remarks were further fueled by comments Warren G. made on the Drink Champs podcast. Warren G. shared that he and Snoop learned of Tupac's shooting through a Nextel radio while they were in Los Angeles, miles away from the chaotic Las Vegas scene. Knight questioned this, asking why Snoop would possess a radio if he was not at the fight or accompanying a security detail. "The only way you have a radio is if you were at the fight with us and had a security detail. Now, if you didn't, what were you doing with a radio?" Knight's implication was heavy. He suspected Snoop might have had insider information about the planned attack on Tupac, even without being present in Las Vegas. The use of a Nextel radio, according to Knight, hinted at a connection or channel of communication that warranted scrutiny. As Suge Knight continues to voice these allegations, the tension surrounding Tupac Shakur's murder only intensifies, bringing Snoop Dogg's credibility and intentions at that time into question. In his recent interview, Knight introduced explosive new claims that challenged Snoop's narrative, casting doubt on his loyalty to Tupac. Knight's perspective suggested a gap between Snoop's public recounting and his actual actions during Tupac's final days. Among Knight's most contentious assertions is his challenge to Snoop's claim that he visited Tupac in the hospital after the September 7, 1996 shooting. Snoop had previously described an emotional scene, stating that he was so overwhelmed by Tupac's condition that he fainted. Snoop recounted, "He had tubes in him, and when I walked in, I could feel he wasn't there. I fainted." This depiction positioned Snoop as a friend struck by deep sorrow over Tupac's fate. Yet Knight countered this version, alleging that Snoop never visited the hospital at all. According to Knight, Snoop's account diverged significantly from reality, raising serious concerns about his motives in recounting such a moment. Knight's challenge to Snoop's hospital visit recollection sparked a troubling line of questioning around Snoop's loyalty and the veracity of his long-held public image. Knight's allegations suggested that Snoop's portrayal of grief and solidarity may have been constructed for public perception, contradicting what Knight claimed to be the truth. This raised doubts about Snoop's image of unwavering support for Tupac, hinting instead at a relationship that may have been more complicated, marked by public camaraderie but private detachment. In questioning Snoop Dogg's hospital visit story, Suge Knight made another startling accusation that has intensified suspicions surrounding Snoop's potential ties to Tupac Shakur's murder. According to Knight, Snoop and fellow death row artist Daz Dillinger collaborated on a track with DeAndre Smith, whom Knight accused of being connected to Tupac's tragic night. If he was truly loyal to Pac, how could he justify working with one of the people implicated in Pac's murder? Knight posed this question sharply. The collaboration, which reportedly occurred while Knight was behind bars, hints at the troubling possibility of Snoop associating with individuals linked to Tupac's death. Knight's claims put both Snoop and Daz in a potentially compromising light, insinuating that they may have collaborated with someone aligned with those responsible for Tupac's demise. This alleged association is especially troubling given the backdrop of the East Coast-West Coast conflict and the constant peril Tupac and Death Row faced during that period. If verified, this collaboration would be a profound act of betrayal against Tupac's legacy and the values he stood for, positioning Snoop and Daz alongside those implicated in one of hip-hop's most infamous tragedies. For Knight, whose commitment to protecting Tupac and Death Row Records was well known, such an alliance would feel like a grave insult to the memory of Tupac. Not stopping there, Suge Knight made explosive allegations against Snoop Dogg, accusing him of betraying Death Row Records and being complicit in the circumstances surrounding Tupac Shakur's death. In a live interview with Chris Cuomo last November, it was clear how confident he was in his perspective. Snoop has a lot to explain, Suge claimed, highlighting that everyone knew about Diddy's alleged criminal activities, implying that artists like Snoop either ignored the truth or enabled it. As Suge stirred the conversation, he suggested that the music industry is rife with exploitation and control. They do these things to take control, he stated, addressing the dark culture within the industry, and made a controversial remark regarding power dynamics, saying, "There's nothing wrong with being gay, but what they're doing is about power." Suge elaborated that Diddy was not the only one taking advantage of young artists, sharing his view that such practices have been ongoing for decades. Older artists pass down these harmful behaviors, he asserted. He emphasized that tangible truths, videos, conversations, and actions reveal the real story, adding, "People can say what they want, but the evidence speaks for itself." During the interview, Suge responded to comments made by Ray J earlier that day, saying, "I have love for Harvey, but Charles always has something negative to say about West Coast artists." He clarified, "Being in prison doesn't mean I'm not free. I can choose to sleep for 12 hours if I want to." When Cuomo provocatively asked if Diddy is akin to a Black Epstein, Suge began naming influential figures in the industry, claiming that they were complicit in Diddy's rise to power. He noted, "First of all, you have to start at the top," mentioning names like Russell Simmons and Jimmy Iovine, and emphasized the deeper issues at play. Suge discussed troubling practices in the industry, revealing disturbing rituals like the boiled egg test, where young artists were subjected to humiliating situations as part of their recruitment. He recalled, "They would have these guys drop their pants and bend over, and if the egg broke, they'd say they weren't ready yet." With a mix of disbelief and frustration, Suge declared, "In Hollywood, everyone acts like they don't know what's going on. If I haven't heard about it, you can bet a lot of others haven't either," he concluded, suggesting that the reality of the situation is much darker than what the public perceives. Suge Knight asked Chris Cuomo if he had ever attended any of Puffy's infamous parties. When Cuomo hesitated, Suge pressed on, stating, "You've had plenty of time to think about it, but if you haven't been to those wild parties, you're missing out. Even some preachers have been caught up in them, praying on their knees, hoping for a miracle." Suge admitted he wasn't there to witness it firsthand, but claimed there's proof of the chaotic atmosphere surrounding Diddy. Suge leaned in, emphasizing the industry's darker side. "Everyone wants to look the other way," he noted, "but this is just the reality of the industry. It's not for the outsiders. When you see a beautiful woman or a handsome man, you can bet they've known they were special from a young age." He pointed out how Hollywood often transforms individuals, citing Puffy's drastic change over the years. "Look at Puffy's early photos. They don't even resemble his current look," he remarked. Suge dropped names like Jay-Z and Snoop Dogg, suggesting they were all aware of Diddy's activities yet remained silent. "Nobody is stepping up to defend him," he asserted, indicating a broader issue in the industry. "This mess didn't start with him, and it won't end with him. We need a solution." When Chris pressed for clarification, asking if Diddy could be seen as a victim who turned into a perpetrator, Suge confirmed, "Absolutely. He dealt with what was done to him." He highlighted the ruthless nature of the industry and the pervasive existence of the casting couch for both genders. Suge confidently stated that Diddy would eventually many others involved in the industry's dark secrets, but hoped it wouldn't lead to another tragic outcome. "Diddy was only 24 when he started Bad Boy Records after Andre Harrell fired him," Suge reminded, suggesting that Diddy had learned from the mentors who helped him rise to power. Shifting the conversation, Suge mentioned his controversial claims regarding Snoop Dogg's potential involvement in Tupac's murder. During an episode of his podcast, Collect Call with Suge Knight, he questioned Snoop's role in Tupac's final days, recalling, "He was a little too quiet for someone who was supposed to be Tupac's friend." He expressed the need for a direct conversation with Snoop, highlighting unresolved issues between them. "I did everything right by him," Suge stated, reminiscing about how he had supported Snoop throughout the years. "It feels like he's turning his back on me after everything I've done for him." Warren G. recently recounted on Drink Champs how he persuaded Snoop to stay in Los Angeles instead of joining Tupac and Suge on their trip to Las Vegas for the Mike Tyson versus Bruce Seldon fight on September 7, 1996. "He came through for the fight instead of going to Vegas," Warren explained. What particularly caught Suge's attention was how he and Snoop learned about Tupac's shooting through a live update on a Nextel walkie-talkie while at Warren's house. Why did Snoop have one on him at that exact moment right when the news about Tupac came through? Suge questioned, implying Snoop might have insider knowledge about the hit. The plot thickened as Warren claimed that Snoop and former Death Row artist Daz Dillinger had collaborated with DeAndre Smith, the man Suge accuses of being involved in Tupac's murder. Suge pointed out that Snoop had warned Daz not to head to Vegas that night, raising suspicions among fans. "I believe Snoop and Puff know more about Tupac than they ever told us," one fan stated, while another commented on Snoop's unusual silence. "Too quiet. It's just a matter of time." This only strengthens fans' suspicions about Snoop Dogg's possible involvement in Tupac's death. Some people even believe that Snoop Dogg may have played a direct role in it. To grasp the origins of Knight's suspicions about Snoop Dogg's possible involvement in Tupac's death, it's essential to explore the intricate relationships among the three, Snoop, Tupac, and Knight. Their histories intersect in a narrative full of camaraderie, loyalty, and possible betrayal, set in the charged atmosphere of 1990s hip-hop. Snoop Dogg, born Calvin Cortazar Broadus Jr., was raised in Compton, California, amid rampant gang violence. This upbringing shaped his identity and early connection to the Crips gang. Despite these challenges, Snoop's exceptional talent for rap offered him an escape route. His breakthrough came in 1992 when he was signed to Death Row Records, co-founded by Suge Knight and Dr. Dre. This marked the start of Snoop's rise in the music world, aligning him with the era's most powerful figures in hip-hop. After joining Death Row, Snoop released his debut album, Doggy Style, later that same year. The album was a massive hit, selling over 10 million copies globally and solidifying Snoop's position in rap. Hits like Gin and Juice and Who Am I, What's My Name catapulted him to fame, showcasing his smooth, unique flow that resonated worldwide. At this peak, Snoop embodied Death Row's bold, rebellious image and quickly became its public face. During these golden years, Snoop and Tupac Shakur formed a strong friendship after Tupac joined Death Row in 1995. Their connection was rooted in mutual admiration for each other's work, with frequent collaborations that reflected a shared vision. Tupac, known for his passionate, socially conscious music, saw Snoop as a comrade, and their bond represented a rare show of unity within the often fractious world of West Coast hip-hop. However, the atmosphere at Death Row was far from peaceful. Suge Knight was a towering and controversial figure in the industry, known for aggressive tactics that often sowed mistrust. While Knight was instrumental in the successes of both Snoop and Tupac, his leadership style was fraught with power struggles and suspicions. The combination of fame, the intense East Coast-West Coast rivalry, and internal tensions made Death Row an environment ready to combust. Knight's skepticism about Snoop's loyalty may have been fueled by various factors. Despite the apparent closeness between Snoop and Tupac, tensions bubbled beneath the surface at Death Row, especially as Tupac's confrontations with rivals grew louder. Just before Tupac's murder, Snoop was navigating a complicated web of gang ties, business demands, and Knight's ever-present influence. Knight's unease about Snoop's actions during this time stemmed from Snoop's relationship with Daz Dillinger and the disputed collaboration involving DeAndre Smith. To Knight, this could have signified divided loyalties or even outright betrayal. Knight's belief in Snoop's possible connection to the events surrounding Tupac's death highlights the pervasive distrust of the era, a time when friendships could shift to rivalries almost instantly. In 1995, the arrival of Tupac Shakur at Death Row changed the hip-hop landscape. With his searing lyrics and unwavering commitment to issues of justice and inequality, Tupac was not just another artist, but a powerful voice for the disenfranchised. From the moment he stepped into the hip-hop world, Tupac Shakur's influence was unmistakable. His debut albums, Tupacalypse Now and Me Against the World, had already cemented him as a formidable force. Meanwhile, Snoop Dogg was making waves with his laid-back, G-funk-infused style steadily rising through the ranks to claim his spot among rap's elite. Though their artistic approaches were distinct, Snoop and Tupac were on parallel trajectories toward legendary status, making their eventual collaboration both inevitable and historic. Their first significant meeting unfolded in a Los Angeles recording studio while Tupac was working on his monumental double album, All Eyes on Me. As one of Death Row Records' flagship artists, Snoop was invited to join Tupac on a track. This wasn't just a routine feature, it was the beginning of an artistic partnership that would redefine the sound of an era. When the two artists met in the studio, the air was charged with creativity and energy. Here were two icons at the height of their powers, ready to fuse their distinct musical visions. The chemistry between them was electric. Tupac's intense, socially charged lyrics met Snoop's smooth, laid-back flow, creating a balance that was both powerful and captivating. This synergy resonated deeply with fans, showcasing the unique fusion of their styles. As they collaborated, Snoop and Tupac discovered they shared more than just a love of music. They had both emerged from tough environments, Tupac from East Harlem and Snoop from Compton, and they understood firsthand the struggles and stories they were telling through their art. This shared background laid the groundwork for a deep bond, built on mutual respect and a collective drive to represent their communities. Their time in the studio resulted in standout tracks that defined the decade. Their collaboration on two of America's Most Wanted was a testament to their combined talent, blending Tupac's urgency with Snoop's effortless cool. It was more than just a song. It was a statement of friendship and resilience, celebrated by fans as a high point in hip-hop history. Beyond their professional collaborations, their friendship flourished. They were more than just co-creators. They became confidants who could rely on each other in an industry marked by competition and pressure. Whether celebrating triumphs or weathering the storms of fame, Tupac and Snoop stood by one another, proving that true loyalty could exist in the chaotic world of music. This connection was even more significant given the backdrop of the 1990s, when the hip-hop scene was torn by the East Coast-West Coast feud. While many artists were embroiled in rivalries that often spilled into real-life violence, Tupac and Snoop carved out a space where their friendship could thrive. They shared their dreams and fears, supporting each other in ways that went beyond music, embodying an authenticity that was rare. An unexpected bond also emerged through their shared love for cannabis, a staple of West Coast rap culture. This common interest became a notable part of their friendship, exemplified during a party for the film Poetic Justice in 1999, when Tupac famously introduced Snoop to smoking blunts. It was an emblematic moment that further solidified their camaraderie. Snoop Dogg, who had already made a name for himself in the hip-hop scene, later shared in interviews that his first encounter with a blunt, a cannabis cigar larger than traditional joints, occurred during this time. Reflecting on that memorable night, Snoop fondly recalled, "Pac passed me my first blunt." This seemingly simple moment symbolized the deepening of their friendship, representing a shared experience that solidified their bond. As the friendship between Tupac Shakur and Snoop Dogg blossomed, so did their impact on the hip-hop industry. Their unique collaboration became a cornerstone of 1990s hip-hop culture, resonating with fans not only in the United States, but globally. Together, they forged a sound that was innovative yet rooted in the realities of their communities, establishing themselves as trailblazers in the genre. Tracks like Two of America's Most Wanted and Gangsta Party emerged from their collaborations, transcending mere songs to become anthems for a generation. Their remarkable chemistry was evident, as Tupac's powerful lyrics merged seamlessly with Snoop's smooth, relaxed delivery. The contrast between Tupac's intense, socially conscious themes and Snoop's effortless storytelling created a dynamic that captivated audiences. Each song served as a powerful mirror, reflecting the experiences and struggles many faced in urban environments, addressing issues like poverty, violence, and systemic injustice. The high production quality of their collaborations, often enhanced by legendary producers like Dr. Dre, further elevated their music. The infectious beats, characterized by deep bass lines and intricate rhythms, made their tracks irresistible. This blend of Snoop's G-Funk sound with Tupac's East Coast influences crafted a distinctive style that appealed to a wide array of listeners, boosting the popularity of West Coast hip-hop. When Tupac and Snoop shared the stage, the experience was electric. Their performances radiated an energy that energized the crowd. They had a natural chemistry, often bouncing off each other's energy and improvising seamlessly. Their remarkable ability to engage the audience drew fans into their world with captivating stage presence and charisma. The synergy they exhibited on stage became legendary, and their live performances were often described as transformative experiences. What truly distinguished Tupac and Snoop was the depth of their lyrics. Tupac was celebrated for his thought-provoking, socially conscious content, addressing urgent issues like racism, police brutality, and the challenges of growing up in underprivileged neighborhoods. He had a unique gift for expressing the pain and frustration felt by many, turning his life experiences into universal messages. Snoop, on the other hand, brought a more laid-back, relatable approach. His storytelling talents allowed him to create narratives that connected with everyday experiences, often infused with humor and clever wordplay. Together, they developed a musical dialogue that not only entertained, but also inspired change. Their songs illuminated the struggles within their communities, urging listeners to face harsh realities while offering a message of hope and resilience. This blend of social consciousness and artistic expression solidified their legacy as not just entertainers, but influential voices in the pursuit of social justice. However, as the friendship between Tupac and Snoop thrived, underlying tensions began to emerge, complicating their relationship and leading to a dramatic shift within the Death Row Records hierarchy. Initially, their bond was built on mutual respect and support, but as Tupac's fame surged, feelings of jealousy and rivalry crept into Snoop's mindset. Accounts from various insiders, including former Death Row executive Low MB, suggest that the dynamics within the label changed significantly with Tupac's rise. In an interview with The Art of Dialogue, Low MB noted, "When Snoop beat that case, that's when the dynamics started changing. You start hearing about Suge leaving, and then Pac was slowly but surely, you could say, taking over." Rather than marking a moment of celebration, Snoop's triumph over legal challenges signaled the onset of a perceived struggle for dominance. Tupac's arrival at Death Row reinvigorated the label, but also cultivated a competitive environment that overshadowed Snoop's own achievements. As Tupac's visibility increased, so did the pressures accompanying it. While both artists enjoyed substantial fame, Tupac's relentless work ethic and commitment to addressing difficult social themes through his music drew significant attention. Snoop, known for his relaxed persona and smooth style, began to feel overshadowed. This shift in the spotlight inevitably led to feelings of insecurity and jealousy, emotions that often arise in the high-stakes entertainment industry. Yet the decline of their friendship cannot be pinned solely on Snoop's feelings of jealousy. The notorious East Coast-West Coast feud that marked the hip-hop scene in the 1990s played a significant role in straining their bond. As tensions flared between artists representing the two coasts, both Tupac and Snoop found themselves entangled in a web of conflict and misunderstanding. This rivalry was exacerbated by sensational media coverage and personal grudges, fostering an environment filled with mistrust and animosity. A pivotal moment occurred when Snoop Dogg participated in a BET interview, where he openly expressed his admiration for Biggie Smalls, Tupac's most prominent adversary. During the interview, Snoop remarked, "Biggie Smalls, he's an artist that you know what I'm saying? I listen to his music. I love his work. It's no beef, it's nothing personal. I don't hate him and I don't disrespect him, and I love what he does, you know what I'm saying? And it's just me. I'm just a smooth, peaceful individual. I don't have beef with nobody right now." The bond between Tupac Shakur and Snoop Dogg was a powerful force in hip-hop, yet it faced an immense challenge as the infamous East Coast-West Coast rivalry intensified. For Tupac, loyalty was not merely a personal principle, it was an integral part of the gang culture he came from. In this environment, loyalty was crucial, and betrayal could lead to severe repercussions. When Snoop openly declared his admiration for Biggie during the BET interview, it signaled to Tupac a perceived act of disloyalty. In Tupac's eyes, enemies became enemies of his friends, and by voicing his lack of animosity toward Biggie, Snoop unwittingly positioned himself as a traitor. As time passed, the divide between the two artists widened. Tupac felt that a line had been crossed. Loyalty in the hip-hop community was paramount, particularly in an era when rivalries often escalated into violence. By appearing to side with Biggie, Snoop inadvertently found himself opposing Tupac in a conflict rooted deeply in both personal and artistic rivalries. To Tupac, Snoop's viewpoint was more than just a disagreement. It felt like a betrayal that altered the dynamics of their friendship significantly. Despite the rising tension, Snoop remained firm in his belief that the rivalry made little sense. He tried to clarify his stance during several interviews, longing for unity rather than conflict. He said, "We all used to hang out. I love Big, and I love Pac, and both of them love me, so how I look saying Biggie? Yeah, 'cause I'm with Pac. We was on the same. Yeah, they rapping the same. We rapping. We got the same struggle, the same hustle. We can't get along. Why we can't like these?" Snoop viewed all artists as part of the same community, grappling with similar challenges. The notion of turning friends into foes seemed contradictory to the message they sought to convey through their music. However, despite Snoop's efforts for reconciliation and his commitment to honoring the music, the atmosphere had already shifted dramatically. He sensed a backlash from his peers, who perceived his comments as a betrayal of the Death Row family, and by extension, of Tupac. "But his aggression was towards me solely because I said I'm cool with Puffy and Biggie during the interview with you," he elaborated. "Tupac took it as if I wasn't down with him anymore, as if I was side-busting, as if I was scared. Death Row looked at me like a traitor." The transformation from friendship to animosity is a recurring theme in the turbulent world of 1990s hip-hop, and for Snoop Dogg, the reality of this shift was profound. Once a close ally, Tupac Shakur became a fervent adversary, and the loyalty Snoop had once built around himself began to unravel. In a ruthless industry defined by competition and betrayal, Snoop quickly realized he wasn't as secure as he once thought. Even those he counted as friends could swiftly become foes. The turning point arrived during an incident that left Snoop shaken. He was set to board a private jet with Death Row Records, a space that had previously felt like a sanctuary. Normally, the aircraft would be filled with familiar faces: Tupac, their security teams, Suge Knight, and a few of Suge's associates. But this time, Snoop faced a disquieting reality. As he drew closer to the airport, Snoop was taken aback when Suge Knight, the head of Death Row Records, barred his security team from boarding. Typically, on a private flight, it would be Pac, his security, me, my security, Suge, and a few of his guys, Snoop reflected. But this time, as I arrived at the airport with my security, Suge said, "Hold up, they can't come. They need to take a regular flight." Being cut off from his reliable security detail sent a wave of unease through Snoop. He felt a chilling sense of vulnerability as he recognized he was now exposed, stripped of the protective shield that had always accompanied him. This absence of security wasn't just an oversight. It felt like a deliberate decision amid the increasingly treacherous climate at Death Row. Snoop realized he had to look out for himself, aware that the stakes had never been so high. It served as a stark reminder of the shifting dynamics within the label and the cracks forming in friendships that had once seemed unbreakable. In a bid to brace for potential threats, Snoop resorted to extreme measures. He equipped himself with cutlery, specifically a knife and fork, prepared to defend himself should the situation escalate. "I was thinking, what's up, P? Why do they treat me like this?" So I made my way to the back of the plane, got myself a blanket, and grabbed a knife and a fork, he recalled. The 5-hour flight turned into a surreal ordeal for Snoop, who clutched his makeshift weapons, feeling both terrified and determined. While the rest of the crew laughed and joked, he felt isolated and detached, like an outsider within his own circle. The laughter that enveloped his companions felt like a cruel taunt, a stark contrast to his rising sense of dread. Once the plane touched down, the atmosphere did not lighten. Each member of the group hurried to their Rolls-Royces, leaving the airport without a word to Snoop, who was left in a cloud of confusion and anxiety. This moment signified a turning point for him, a painful realization that the bonds he had once held dear were beginning to unravel. It was in that bleak farewell that Snoop Dogg had his final moments with Tupac. Just 3 days later, Tupac was shot and ended his life in Las Vegas, a tragedy that sent shockwaves through the hip-hop community and irrevocably changed the trajectory of the genre. What are your thoughts on Tupac's death and its connection to Snoop Dogg? Share your comments in the section below. We hope you found this video interesting. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel if you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next videos. Goodbye.